for the stroll, and there Mr. Hunt had been, waiting by the steely grey serpentine. The two men had pretended surprise at running into one another, but Michael was a horrible actor, and Mr. Hunt even more atrocious. Her brother had not yet given up in his quest to find her a suitable husband, and it seemed every time she requested that he stop, he lost the ability to hear. Tonight, Mr. Hunt had swept up to her and declared his intention to have her first dance of the evening. Her swift fib that she was not dancing due to a twisted ankle had not deterred him. Instead, he'd asked for the honour of fetching her some punch. When he'd gone for the refreshments table, Cassie slipped away. She'd been avoiding him ever since. Mariana clutched her arm. "Don't turn your head, but there is a man who keeps looking at you." "If it is Mr. Hunt, I am climbing into this plant and living there forever. Send my belongings." No, it's not him. This man is different. He's handsome, quite handsome," she said a little too breathily. "It is one of Lord Lindstrom's sons, if I'm not mistaken." Cassie's spine went rigid. "Which one?" "I have no idea. They all look alike." Slowly, Cassie glimpsed over her shoulder and through the palm fronds. The man Mariana had noticed stood a good head taller than the other men in the ballroom. His broad shoulders filled out the black superfine of his jacket with irritating precision when compared to the artful looseness of his cravat. Thick midnight black hair fell forward over his brow, reaching toward pale green eyes that had already spied her behind the potted palm. He formed a sly grin and tipped his drink to her in acknowledgement. She immediately turned her back. "Blast! Do you know the gentleman?" Mariana asked, still staring at him in open admiration. "Unfortunately, it is the Marquess of Lindstrom's fourth son, Lord Grant Thornton." It had been nearly 2 years since she'd last seen him, and as always there had been friction between them. They'd been at Lord and Lady Neatham's home on Berkeley Square during the birth of Hugh and Audrey's first child. Lord Thornton had been there to support his closest friend, and, as Audrey's former sister-in-law, Cassie had been there too. Seeing Audrey and Hugh hold their little girl for the first time had brought tears to her eyes. However, it wasn't until she'd slipped away into the small morning room that she'd allowed the veil of joy to drop and the sobs to take over. After a few ugly wails drawn up as if from the pit of her soul, a throat had cleared. "If those are tears of happiness, I do not want to imagine what your tears of sorrow must sound like." Grant Thornton had already been seated in the morning room when she'd entered, the tall backing of the chair obscuring him completely. Cassie had quickly dried her cheeks, wiped her nose, and chastised him for not announcing himself as any gentleman should. "And no lady should sound like a bleating goat when they cry," he replied. "What are these tears for, anyhow? A baby has been born. It's an exultant occasion, or so I'm told." It was an exultant occasion, and that was why Cassie had waited until she was alone, or at least believed herself to be, before she'd let her tears fall. She wondered if she would ever see a newborn baby and not feel stabbing heartache first and foremost. "My tears are none of your concern," she'd said before storming from the room, "and I do not sound like a goat." Now, here Lord Thornton was again. He looked much the same, just as devilish, and just as unimpressed with his surroundings. What was he doing at Lady Dutton's ball? This was a society event, and it was well known that the fourth son of the Marquess of Lindstrom and the physician to several ton peers did not go out in society. He was a flirt, a libertine, and